automation in education. What is ChatGPT and where does it come from? A lot of people, not necessarily teachers, are very enthusiastic about what ChatGPT and similar tools can do for education, saying that this will herald a new era that allows us to focus on developing critical thinking, creativity, and other soft skills. We, of course, know that these are very important aspects of an education, a holistic education. But don't we already know this and don't we already do this? Aren't we already working towards developing critical thinking, creativity, and soft skills? And if we are not, is this a technological problem that requires a technological solution, or is it a different kind of problem that requires a different kind of solution? These are the things that we need to think about, especially when the evidence suggests that digital technology in the classroom does not improve learning. In fact, the evidence suggests the opposite. Ditto for automation. The more you automate, the more you work. But what is artificial intelligence? To begin with, it's a misleading term. It is made to sound as if though it is an immaterial thing that exists in the cloud, but in fact it requires a vast physical infrastructure for it to exist and operate, starting with the extraction of scarce natural resources through mining practices that are very harmful to the world. Second, it requires ethically questionable labor in the form of vast warehouses full of people that are clicking through the data that needs to be classified for these systems to appear autonomous. These people are very low-paid workers who suffer greatly from the mental stresses of having to click through unimaginably offensive content in order to be able to filter it out. Third, it involves the extraction of personal data. What happens is, after the initial phase of training in these warehouses, they scale the training up, and that means that you, the person using ChatGPT, becomes the unpaid trainer for ChatGPT. And in order for you to do that, they have to extract your personal data. So where does this tool come from? The developer is OpenAI, and there are very interesting things about OpenAI and its CEO that merit consideration. First of all, OpenAI's mission statement publicly and clearly expresses their belief in something called artificial general intelligence and their desire for that to outperform humans at most economically valuable work. This mission statement that is so deceptively simple and clear has profound implications for what it is stating. First of all, it's stating that OpenAI believes in something called artificial general intelligence, which is basically another word or another way of saying human level intelligence. So they believe that machines can achieve human intelligence, which is a problematic and controversial claim to begin with. But putting that aside for a second, assuming that this is actually possible, they are openly saying that they want to develop this human-like intelligence in order for it to replace humans in what we now consider work. This isn't accompanied by any kind of plan or any kind of forethought to what achieving that would mean. It is simply something that they want to do, and it's up to us to figure out what happens afterwards. Second, this belief in artificial general intelligence or human level intelligence is actually crazier than even that sounds, which is the possibility, or rather, the expected reality that in the not so distant future, humans will cease to exist as a species because there will be a physical merging with machines. This might sound absolutely nuts, but it's actually what the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, believes. Putting aside whether or not this is possible, the important thing is to remember and to keep in mind that this is what Sam Altman is expressly publicly saying he wants to contribute to: the end of the human species. And third, as we mentioned before, it has already been documented that OpenAI uses ethically questionable labor to make its systems appear autonomous. So this is OpenAI. So one of my main concerns regarding these tools isn't that they are powerful and that they are so-called intelligent. It's actually the opposite. It's precisely because these tools are so clumsy and so limited that I am concerned. The best way of expressing this that I've found is through the concept of the envelope. The envelope is a concept used in engineering to explain when you have to create or adapt a physical environment in order for a technology to be successful. In order for the technology to work, you have to create a space in which it can work. Therefore, it is a space that is designed specifically for the technology, not for people. This is what's happening to a great extent with digital technologies and very definitely with artificial intelligence. Because it is not intelligent and because acquiring any sort of level of real human intelligence is impossible, what these tools do and what we risk doing as a society is limiting ourselves to the capabilities of the tool rather than using the tool to enhance our abilities and our capabilities. One of the people that have explored this concept and articulated it the most is Luciano Floridi, who has done a lot of research and extensive work on this topic and is someone that you should definitely look into in order to understand this further. So what are my specific concerns regarding education in the face of these kinds of tools? Well, to begin with, I believe it's going to do the exact opposite that everyone is wanting it to do. Instead of giving us more time to be able to focus on creative thinking, critical thinking, higher order thinking skills in general, it's actually going to strengthen the move towards even more standardization than we already have. And the reason is very simple. These tools only work in a very limited capacity, meaning they only work when you can easily predict the outcome. In other words, if you want a short paragraph or if you want a quick, common 10-question true or false quiz, or if you want to generate a lesson plan from a state-mandated curriculum, yes, this is going to help you do that much faster because those texts are very predictable. They're very algorithmic. They're very binary. They are precisely the opposite of creative or critical. So this tool is only going to expand and make more efficient the standardization that we already have. Second, it's going to increase the access to quality education throughout the world because the more that you automate education, the more valuable you make and the more expensive and costly you make non-automated education, meaning that the elites throughout the world will continue to seek out the kinds of education that they are currently doing for their children, which is small-sized classrooms with a very personal attention from their teacher. Third, it's going to lead to a decrease in developing basic skills and creativity. Why? Because we will begin to outsource and automate the very laborious, tedious tasks of developing creativity, of reading and writing and learning basic math and basic science. This has already been demonstrated as an effect of digital technologies in the classroom. The research is very clear. Lastly, in terms of the administrative work that none of us teachers like to do and that we wish that we didn't have to do in order to be able to focus more on our students. In the last 20 or 30 years, classrooms and schools have been bombarded with information technology tools, most of them, if not all of them, proclaiming that they would help us free up that time Over and over again, that's what we're told. The more you use these tools, the more time you'll have to focus on your students. And we all know that this is not true. This has not been the case. And in fact, if we are now so enthusiastic, or rather, if there is so much enthusiasm for these kinds of tools in terms of it being able to do these tedious tasks for us, then that means that we are currently feeling that we do not have enough time for our students, or the time that we would like to have, because we are doing these administrative tasks, because the implication being, over the last 10, 20, 30 years, these tools that have promised this before have not delivered on their promise. So why would this tool be any different? The research is very clear. The more you automate work, the more work is created. And this, of course, is true and applicable to any other system that will be thrown at us in the next weeks, months, and years. There is no exception to any of the things that I have said. And in particular, this is true because there's only a very small group of companies that can have access to the vast infrastructure that I referred to before. So another thing to consider is that the more that we use these tools, the more we continue to concentrate power in very few hands. We're talking about 2, 3, maybe 4 companies in the entire world that will control, have increased control over what is happening in our classrooms. Don't believe me. Go out, do your own research, prove me wrong, argue with me, let me know. Really, do your own research, do your own thinking. Don't let anyone bully you or pressure you into using this tool until you feel that it can actually benefit your students. You're not obligated to use something in your classroom simply because it exists.